So is that easy to do Zoom? You just set up a Zoom account and tell it where to send them a message?
Well, you know, easy is a relative term.
Good morning, everybody. You guys are being congratulated for the excellent work that you're doing through the years and about to culminate. I'm so proud of each of you.
Thank you. That's birthday, Ann, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Birthday.
That's birthday.
That's the way to start off. That's the way to start off for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Comes from my heart.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Oh, so much.
Man, I hate to stop Frankie on that note.
I know.
Pretty good.
All right, looks like we're streaming on YouTube. Hope everybody's doing well on this wonderful Saturday, August 28th. How many folks we got? We've got a few folks, 30 something. I'm sure people will be jumping on. Thank you all for taking a little time to hang out with us on a Saturday. We will try to be as respectful of your time and stick to the agenda as possible. Hopefully you guys are all able to see the agenda that was posted in the chat. Just in case, let's repost it. If I can find it. There we go. Okay. So let me, it's 2 o'clock. We always like to start on time. So welcome, welcome. This is the September, good Lord, my timing is all off. The August General Meeting of United Homeowners Association. I'm trying to jump ahead, Helen.
Yes.
I'm John Heath, President of United Homeowners Association. It's my pleasure to welcome everybody to what's going to be an action-packed and hopefully information-filled meeting. I want to make sure everybody keeps themselves on mute until and unless you're recognized to speak. We'll run through the other agenda items in a minute, but let me ask one of our elders to give us a nod or a wave just to signify that they give us their approval to proceed. A thumbs up works too. Anybody want to do that? Give me a nod. All right, Joanne, I see that. Thank you. Helen, thank you. We appreciate that. We always have to respect our elders and honor our source and where we come from. And speaking of that, let me just take a minute and ask you guys to pause and let's have a moment of silence and reflection, not only for those folks that may have been lost since we last met, because it's been a couple of months. Our last meeting was in late June, but for those folks that may be having health challenges, and certainly our folks that are in Louisiana and the Gulf Coast dealing with incoming hurricanes on this, 16th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina coming up. And also folks dealing with challenges in Afghanistan and elsewhere. Just take a minute and reflect on that. Thank you. All right, so on our agenda today, we're going to stick right to it and go as quickly as we can. Again, keep yourself on mute until and unless you're recognized to speak. If you're dialing in, you can press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Raise your hand or press *9 if you're calling in to be recognized to speak. You're always welcome to submit comments or questions in the chat as well. Obviously, we're going to try to get as much feedback as possible. We've got Supervisor Mitchell's District Director joining us here today, so we want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak to him. But we might not be able to get to everybody. So again, just keep your questions and comments short, and let's respect everybody. And as you all know, as always, we're recording this meeting and live streaming it on our UHA YouTube channel. So if you ever want to see what's going on with UHA, just go to YouTube and type in UHA and Roman numeral 2, and you'll get taken to our channel. And all you guys should join that. Hopefully there's some good information there that's helpful. So listen, I'm going to try to run through just some recent activities. As I said, it's been a couple months since we met. I never really realized everything that we're doing because it's just so hectic as we're doing it. But when we get ready for these meetings and I sit down to summarize it, it's like, wow, we've got like a whole bunch of stuff that we've done. So let me just run through this, and we will try to, as things are pertinent to the conversation, we'll try to post this in the chat. Obviously, if you guys have a burning question or comment, you can put it out there, but we want to try to get through this so we can get to Mr. Simmons and the rest of our agenda. So first of all, after our last meeting in June, we submitted a letter on June 30th to Supervisor Mitchell and the other members of the Board of Supervisors and to the Board of Directors of Wayfinder Family Services, expressing our very serious concerns about what's been going on at that facility. And more importantly, what the plan is, asking for the supervisor's help to deal with that. Because, you know, despite the fact that it's important to do great work and have a safe, healthy environment for foster youth and so forth, that can't be at the expense of the health and safety of our community. And obviously, if the staff members at Wayfinder and the clients there are not in a safe environment, then we've got real problems. So we sent that letter out. We'll post that in the chat. Haven't really, I guess the response was shortly thereafter in July, on July 27th, Wayfinder had a Zoom meeting and invited all of us to participate, which we did. Some members have subsequently stopped by there for a tour of the facility. I've been there before, so I did not partake. But one thing that we will ask Mr. Simmons when he comes on is about the agreements that Wayfinder has with the County of Los Angeles and whether they are fully in compliance with that, because that's kind of important. So let's see if I can quickly find that. Multitasking here, there it is, letter super. So if you all want to read that letter, we just posted it in the chat. Inglewood Oil Field, how many of you by show of hands were treated to that wonderful oil smell back on July 2nd when something called produce water was spewing from a pipeline or something close to Stalker? We smelled it all the way over here. I know a lot of other neighbors in View Park and Windsor Hills smelled it. You know, that was needless to say, just another unfortunate incident and things that happen when you have the largest urban oil field in the country operating this close to a densely populated area. So that's another thing that we want to speak to Mr. Simmons, Supervisor Mitchell's representative, about, and just get their take on the road ahead. We know that there are some health studies forthcoming. That's great. We also want to talk about what the process is to get an amortization study and an analysis of what it's going to take to shut that field down. On July 19th, we had a follow-up meeting with Isela Gracian, who's the supervisor's housing deputy, along with some folks from LA County Regional Planning and County Council, which was great. We followed up and had an extensive conversation on 5G wireless towers and some questions and concerns we have over the failure to properly permit and approve those 3 installations that just popped up. At least the towers, the poles are there, the equipment hasn't been installed yet, but on Fairway, Northridge, and Escalon. And in fact, I want to take a quick minute and commend our neighbor from Escalon, Angela Sherrick Bright, for doing some outstanding work just on researching that issue. And I'm going to attach to and put in the chat this fantastic letter that she wrote. As far as I'm concerned, she just wrote herself onto, at a minimum, chairing our land use committee, because this is some very, very tight scholarly work that Angela did. And Angela, if you're here and you can hear me, thank you for doing that. We appreciate that. So bottom line is, this issue is still a live issue, and Angela can give us more information about that. But again, this is something we want to hear from the supervisor about, to find out what we can do as a community to protect ourselves from installations like this just popping up with no notice, no hearing, just somebody thinks they have the right to do it and they do it. Something else we did since we last met is we helped organize a coalition of community organizations across the 54th Assembly District. As you all know, we have a new assembly member, Mr. Isaac Bryan, got himself elected in a special election when our neighbor, now Senator Kwame, got promoted. So the first meeting we had was on July 9th. with Mr. Bryan's chief of staff and his district director. The video for that is posted on our YouTube channel. I encourage you to take a minute and check that out. We then had a follow-up meeting, which included the assembly member himself the next week on July 14th. Very good discussion. I think the assembly member really got a good sense and already had a sense of what the issues are as far as these state bills, which, by the way, SB 9 and SB 10 just passed the assembly this week. So those are headed for, they're going to get passed. They're going to become law. And we'll have more to say about that in a minute. But to his credit, Mr. Bryan did abstain from voting on both those bills, despite the fact that we know he was under some measure of political pressure, both from people that serve in the legislature and I'm sure a lot of the people that supported his campaign. So, you know, even though he didn't vote no, he didn't vote yes, which is just as good. So just want to commend and acknowledge him for doing that. A little later on, we'll put up the actual votes on those bills so you guys can see how everybody voted, because I think it's important for folks to see what our legislators are doing and how that outsized influence of public interest, special interest money, rather, can affect things like votes on bills that do away with single family zoning. I'm still trying to figure out what the point of that is. You guys may have seen an editorial in the LA Times this week. We'll put that up later on in the meeting, but the title of it was to save California, do away with single family zoning. And when I read that, I was thinking, well, you know, they may want to just substitute the words Black and Latino and communities. So the editorial would read, to save California, do away with single family Black and Latino communities, because that's essentially what this bill is going to do, what these bills are going to do. And that's really a shame. And we'll talk some more about that. And more importantly, what we all need to be doing now, because there are definitely some action steps that we can take. We got involved in some efforts by our members to deal with what was an issue, and hopefully it's better now, but it was an ongoing issue with some trainers that I guess during the pandemic, the folks that do exercise classes thought it'd be a great idea to set up shop at Inglewood Parkway and just have, you know, like classes and collect money to do their training right there. Only problem is, and of course it's a public park, so we welcome, you know, the public is welcome, everybody's welcome, as long as you're abiding by the rules. And the problem became folks were blocking pathways and getting belligerent when people would ask them to, you know, hey, respect the neighborhood, respect the park, et cetera. And I'm sure some other people on here can comment more on that. But the bottom line is we had to get involved and encourage county rec and parks, or parks and rec. I always get that flip. That's the city that's rec and parks anyway. And the county sheriff park patrol to get involved and really post the rules over there and make sure folks are following it. So hopefully that had some positive impact, and we'll again discuss that with Mr. Simmons. And again, whoever's coming on that's not muted, make sure you're muting yourself, because we might start hearing echoes, and that's not good. Okay, so I already mentioned our advocacy about the state legislation. In fact, while I'm thinking about it, let me post that editorial in the chat so you guys can read that. I would encourage you all to go to the Times and just read this editorial. It's posted in the chat. But the Times and many other media outlets and so-called scholarly institutions have really, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, folks. I don't know if it's you know, big tech and the big Wall Street investor types that are throwing their weight around or what, but you know, this whole notion that we just need more and more and more density everywhere, and that's going to somehow be a panacea that solves our problems, apparently seems to you know, be a narrative that's being pushed, and we need to question that. Let's see here. So I was talking about things we can do. So somebody needs to mute themselves. I can't see who that is, but somebody's got their TV on in the background. So there we go. Thank you. One thing we can do is, well, one thing I did, I got myself involved in statewide politics, folks, which of course those that know me know that I had absolutely no intentions of doing anything political, but by definition, when you become a community activist, this is part of it. So what ended up happening is, as we looked at where these bills were headed, because SB 1120 essentially passed last year, was just stopped on a technicality from becoming law. So we were pretty certain that these bills would pass through the legislature this year, which is already happening, as we mentioned. So myself and several other Californians, folks from Northern California, Southern California, et cetera, got together and sponsored a
Caller, go online now for this limited time offer. And if you're an active or retired.
Yeah, we may have to just mute everybody if that keeps happening. Anyway, Michael and Daryl, in fact, Michael.
It's the same person, Kathy. So if we can get Kathy to, she might be
Yeah.
inadvertently pressing the button or something.
Could be. And that reminds me, Michael, I hadn't made you a co-host, so now let's do that. So let me post, since I'm completely distracted now, let me post the initiative in the chat and encourage you guys to go to www.communitiesforchoice.org, and you can get more information. And again, I'm just trying to go through kind of a summary of everything that we've been doing in the last couple of months real fast. We'll get more in depth later, but the long and short of it is that what we're doing is we're sponsoring an initiative that will go on the November 2022 ballot that will amend the California Constitution to make land use and zoning a local matter permanently, to get the state legislators out of the business of monkeying around with our local land use and zoning law and policy. So that's, if it takes that, unfortunately, we got to do it. So get ready to get on another campaign. We're going to need to raise money. We're going to first need to collect a lot of signatures, which involves raising money. I think we need 1.2 or 1.3 million signatures to get this thing on the ballot. So this is going to be a full all-out campaign, and you guys will hear more about that later. And again, www.communitiesforchoice.org has all the background on that. So real fast, before I ask Mr. Simmons to unmute and join us officially, our successful judgment that we won now a couple of years ago, I can't believe that was June of 2019, against the county and the developer of the View has been appealed. I think you all know that. This is the 88-unit condo project that's 35 feet over the height limit and way too big for the site that our neighbor was proposing to build at Overhill and Stocker, with, I think, 3 or 4 units that are affordable for workforce families. Anyway, the developer's attorney filed an appeal. They just asked for extra time to submit the appeal. We'll have an update for you all by next month on where that stands. But that's what happens when lawyers get involved in stuff. We tend to muck things up. I just yesterday sent an email to the LA Sentinel and the new owners of the mall. I'm sure you guys heard that transaction did close. Heritage Development Group is the new owner officially of Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza and Macy's. Apparently they bought that whole thing. Unfortunately, however, some of you may have seen an article in the LA Sentinel that came out Thursday that mentioned something about a group of HOAs, and it referenced Baldwin Hills, Leimert Park, Crenshaw, and then View Park homeowners associations. And we all saw that and we were like, hey, were you at a meeting? I wasn't at a meeting. So there's the article if you want to see it. We had to get, and I had a nice conversation with Danny Bakewell Jr. I'm sure we'll be able to get a correction printed both in the print version and the online version. But the email that I just posted, we had to submit to both Mr. Bakewell and Mr. Schwartzman, the lead dog in the development group that now owns the mall, to make it clear that, hey, UHA, no one representing View Park, any homeowners association in View Park was at a meeting at any time with anyone associated with the Heritage Group. And furthermore, one of our neighbors mentioned to us that Mr. Schwartzman said something about our organization being against another bidder or something. And of course, you all know that we don't just take positions without thinking that through very carefully. So we were very careful not to take a position on any specific bidder or proposal. In fact, the only position that we took was that we wanted the process to be transparent and fair.
From the United States, maybe formal diplomatic recognition, maybe some form of.
Okay, so we're gonna have
Is that
to,
how you see it? I mean, it's actually appalling. You think you've seen the worst you've ever seen, and then you hear something.
okay, so now we're gonna have to unmute folks manually because now folks cannot unmute themselves, so.
It's still that same person.
Yep, we'll work it out. Anyway, let's see. So you guys can review that stuff about the mall. You know, congratulations to the Heritage Group. This has been a long process of back and forth, and we'll have more conversation about that later when we talk about land use. But we need to see some positive things happen with that mall property. That's 42 acres of very valuable real estate, and it definitely needs to go in a positive direction, and it needs to benefit the community. And I mean everybody, you know, the homeowners that live in the hills above it, the homeowners and the renters that live on the streets immediately adjacent to it, the folks in Baldwin Village, et cetera, Leimert Park, Hyde Park. That's a regional facility, and it's got everybody this is something that everybody needs to be involved in and participate in and benefit from. So we'll have more conversation about that. Thank you again to everybody. You all have been very responsive and generous in responding to the mailer that we sent out back in early May. We sent out over 4,000 pieces of mail, as you guys know, to the entire community.
Give them support. Do you agree with that?
Thus far, oh, I spoke too soon. Somebody's still figuring out how to unmute themselves. Let's see. So, since May, when we sent out that mailer, we've gotten just about 300 memberships, which is fantastic. And that's a combination of new members and folks that were renewing their membership. So we really want to say thank you to everybody for your support. That's what it takes to have a strong organization, as you all know. We collected over $18,500 from that. So, you know, the money that we put out, we made back and then some. So, you know, on behalf of my fellow board members, I really want to say thanks to the entire community for your support. That's fantastic. And that's what helps an organization be strong. So finally, before I get Mr. Simmons in here, and I see we're running a couple minutes late, sorry. I want to say thanks to my fellow board members. We were able to formally establish, as we told you guys last month, the UHA Community Development Fund. That is a nonprofit public benefit corporation that we will put together bylaws on and establish. We need to file a paperwork to establish it as a 501c3. So the donations to that entity will be tax deductible. And we very consciously, as you all may recall, when we talked about this, we very consciously have always from the beginning talked about the need to be able to be political. So that's, you know, UHA is a 501c4, not unrestricted as far as what we can do on the political side, but then also get involved on the business and community development and land use planning side of the equation. And that's what UHA CDF Community Development Fund is going to do. We'll talk more about it later, but we're very excited about the possibilities that this opens up in terms of us as a community being able to participate in what we all know, you know, real estate over here. I just had some guy call me yesterday and ask me if I wanted to sell my house, which was funny talking to a real estate broker. But we all know how valuable this real estate is, you know, both the residential and the commercial. And again, same concept with the mall. All of us need to benefit and participate in this huge increase in value. It can't just be the folks from outside, the speculators, the Wall Streets, the this, the that, Daddy Warbucks, et cetera. You know, the folks that have been here, the folks that fought, bled, and died for our right to live in this neighborhood, quite literally, and their descendants. You know, we all need to make sure that we're thinking about the best ways to continue to manage and build a community. So the Community Development Fund is a big part of that. And and also we wrote it, you'll see, in fact, I keep running my mouth and forgetting that we've got all this good stuff. Let me, and no, Daryl, I didn't see Kwame's message. He's got a hard stop. Okay, I'm gonna shut up and get him in here. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you saw that.
Yeah, thanks. We want to share this. That's the Articles of Incorporation. So you can read that at your leisure, and you'll see this, I think the second section really talks about the purpose. And we made it very specific, but we also made it broad enough so that it's South LA focused, Windsor Hills, View Park, View Heights focused, but also picks up the surrounding areas. So we want to make sure that residents, small businesses, everybody's able to participate and we can benefit everybody. So with that being said, that's a summary of what we've been doing. I was hoping that would take 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and I see it's taking way too long. Let me get our friend, Mr. Kwame Simmons, to unmute himself if he can, or I'll have to find him since I stopped everybody. Kwame, can you unmute yourself? Okay, well, let's see if we can fix that. Now try it.
I think I figured it out.
There we go.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Good.
So let me
Yep.
give you a formal introduction. This is our friend Kwame Toure Simmons. I got to give his full name because that's a powerful name. That's a combination of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and the great Ahmed Sekou Toure from Guinea and Ghana, respectively. So this brother, when he shows up, he's carrying a whole lot. You got a lot of pressure on you to live up to that name, man. And Mr. Simmons is Supervisor Mitchell's district director. So he's responsible for interfacing with us as her constituents. And he was good enough to join us for a few minutes here to answer a few questions. And I imagine he probably has a couple things to say about what the supervisor's priorities are. So Mr. Simmons, the floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for having me. I'll say at the top, apologies for not being able to be on camera. I'm actually in my car right now. We are tabling at the Leimert Park Jazz Festival, and I don't have Wi-Fi to be able to use my computer. I thought I would, but I do not. Hence the hard stop at 2:45. I got to go get back to supporting my team at the table and interacting with the community. But just wanted to say hi. I'm Kwame Toure Simmons. I am the district director for Supervisor Mitchell. Since I have a hard stop, I'm not going to go into too much detail. I want to leave some space for you all to be able to ask me some questions. So I'll just talk a little bit about the priorities for Supervisor Mitchell at this time. We came into office right in the middle of budget season. So as we came into office, the budget priorities for each department had already been submitted to the CEO. So we have been working on figuring out our role in that process and ensuring that this budget has an equity focus that is our theme, that is Supervisor Mitchell's priority. So a few motions that she's passed include the ARP funding equity focus motion, which ensures that the communities that have been hardest hit by the coronavirus pandemic are getting the ARP recovery funds and not just saying we need to equally distribute it across all 5 districts, but instead saying we need to take a look at which communities were hardest hit and dedicate funding to those communities. Also, infrastructure, we are focused on infrastructure equity, ensuring that communities that need access, not just to public transportation, but to having their roads fixed, et cetera. Repaving, I know, is a big issue for you all, and we're working on that as well, figuring out where the resources can come from to ensure that we live up to the promises that have been made for 10 years plus to you all. We've been meeting with the Department of Public Works regularly on getting that scheduled. One of the challenges that we're facing is the Department of Public Works has a large number of vacancies, which is slowing down that process. And the pandemic and the ensuing recession did not help that, but we are working on figuring out what we can do to get that taken care of. We are also working on violence prevention and trauma support. We had the board approve $1.32 million in additional funding to communities in the 2nd district and the 5th district as well that are hardest hit by the increase in violent crime that we are seeing. And so we want to make sure we're focusing not just on the traumatic after effects, but trying to prevent it as well by getting some interventionists on the ground in communities. And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about community issues. We are in regular communication with the California Highway Patrol on some of the speeding and street racing that you're seeing, as well as some of the street takeovers that are happening in some other communities in the 2nd district. They are increasing their resources, and they sent me an update recently and saying that they're making some progress there. So we are continuing to do our work on that end and being vigilant. Also, homelessness, of course, is a very important issue, and we are working on it as an office. We have begun convening an interdepartmental working group with the Sheriff's Department, the Department of Public Works, our service providers, LASA, CEO, County Council, I mean, you name it, interdepartmental. We have about 50 folks on that call, and we are figuring out our strategy and ensuring that we have the data. We're utilizing all resources available to us to make sure that we get our housing, our unhoused constituents into housing, and that we are reducing the number of encampments across the district. So I'll stop there and open it up. I will also say my role in the office as district director is more focused on constituent services and connecting the community to resources. But if there are any specific policy questions, I will do my very best to answer them, but I may have to get back to you all on that.
Thanks, Kwame. We appreciate that. I'll start it off, and if others have questions for Kwame, just raise your hand and we'll do our best to get to you. Real fast, not in any particular order, and I'll try to go easy because I know you're multitasking over there in Leimert Park. When we see homeless folks in the neighborhood, typically what we've done is contact the sheriff. If you have other suggestions, we'd love to hear it. Tell us about the supervisor's plan on Wayfinder and the oil field. And, are you guys satisfied with what you're seeing from Wayfinder at this point?
So let's start with the homelessness question first. I highly, highly, highly advise folks to, if they see an encampment, to go to la-hop, I believe it's .com. I'll have to double check that because I have it bookmarked, and so I don't type it in very often. But our LA Homeless Outreach Portal is where you can go and ensure that the folks there are getting the outreach services that they need. I would recommend that rather than calling the Sheriff's Department, because the Sheriff's Department focus is just going to be on compliance, but we want to ensure that the people that are there are getting the mental health supports that they need. If there is any drug addiction or substance abuse, that they may get the support from nurses, and our Department of Public Health are able to kind of provide some resources there. So do that. And if you need any help with that, please contact our office. We are keeping a log of encampments around the 2nd District, and getting detailed information from our service providers is our focus right now on ensuring that all resources available to the county are being utilized, and making sure that we're reducing the number of encampments by getting people connected to long-term housing. On your question regarding the oil fields, I was out with Supervisor Mitchell very recently and our environmental justice deputy to tour the oil fields. And Supervisor Mitchell's already been there previously, but this was just a way for us to recenter on ensuring that we are looking at this from a multi-level approach. How are we working with our state officials, the county, and then some of the cities as well, on ensuring that the people who are responsible for building those oil fields are also responsible for closing down those oil fields. This should not be on the public, definitely not on the public dime, to be able to close down these oil fields. This should be on the people who have profited off of these oil fields and continue to profit off of these oil fields. And we're also very mindful that there are some of the oil drills and wells that are currently not producing oil. So we don't know why the private businesses insist on keeping these oil wells in operation if they're not using them. Regarding Wayfinder, and we are working on a motion at the county level to address that. We're going to be working with the community on what that looks like as well. Regarding Wayfinder, we have regular check-ins with Wayfinder. I've been with the office for about 5 months now, so I'm still getting up to speed on what happened before my tenure. But as far as I know, and to the best of my knowledge, Wayfinder is in compliance. One of the things that I want to stress is that the program that Wayfinder will be starting soon is not the same program that Wayfinder previously had. The STRTP is no longer in effect. The program that will be instituted soon will have children who have opted into additional resources. So people who have said, our youth who have said, hey, I need some additional help while I am seeking long-term housing. I need some help from the county. So these are youth who want to be there. And it's also my understanding that while they are in this program, they have to be in compliance with program elements, whether that be in school or having a job. And so these are going to be a different set of youth that are coming into this program that Wayfinder will be starting soon.
Thanks for that.
And so one last thing I'll say is, we are mindful of the past. We are mindful of the issues that you all are raising. I was just out there yesterday, and I had a nice tour, and I also spoke with some of the folks from UHA too about the history and all of that. And I am in constant communication with Wayfinder as well, and ensuring that they are increasing the resources needed to take care of the issues that you all have. And we really encourage you all to continue that conversation with Wayfinder to ensure that they're listening to your voices. I know they are, but talk with them and build that conversation about how we can continue to build ties for the Wayfinder services, because these are important services for our foster youth.
We definitely will do that. Thanks, Kwame. And just real fast, and I'm going to get to Helen and Adler Weinberg, but do you know if you said youth or children are going to be served? Do you know if we have an upper age limit? Is it 16, 18, or do you not know?
20 years old is the upper age limit.
Okay, so we're talking that's a little bit beyond youth, but okay. We'll follow up on that. Helen Sellers, unmute yourself and ask Mr. Simmons your question, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Simmons. Thank you for coming on with us this afternoon. I would like to know when the application for Section 8 vouchers is going to open up, and this time, will we receive enough for the people out there who need help with housing?
That's a good question. I do not have the answer for you right now, but I will get an answer to John so that he can update you all. Just let me take some notes real quick on my phone so I can get that to you. So when is Section 8 opening, and then where are the resources going to be allocated? That's your question, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I will get that answer to you.
We'll definitely follow up on that, both on the county side and the city side, Helen.
Yes.
I know the city, Reese Hackler, recently had their list open. Adler Weinberg, can you unmute and give us your name, please?
Hi, this is Matthew Adler and my partner, Greg Weinberg.
How you guys doing?
We just wanted to maybe thanks. We like the new Ladera Park and the improvements there that have been completed. But the playground equipment is mostly targeted toward the younger set. And we're just curious maybe if any of the county has any plan or there's any hope for some playground equipment in View Park.
Good question.
Thank you for that question. So we are internally, we're starting a community development pod, and that's going to bring together staff from across our office to identify where there are areas across our district, whether it be beautification projects, improving our parks, or even just investing in certain high value areas to adjudicate these projects and find the funding to do it. So I will add that to my list. I know I've been talking previously with a resident about doing some upgrades at the Ladera Amphitheater. So that's also on our list to take a look at. So I will add that to the list.
Thank you.
Thanks. Helen Maxwell, you had a question, I think. Can you unmute real fast, Helen? We're going to try to go ahead. Real fast.
Mostly this is a comment, and I'm very still concerned about wayfinders because there are still some situations going on over there. And we'll try to see how we get them reported to you. It is very clear that they're not really able to address the older kids, and to have adults now coming in. We really do need to keep an eye on that.
Yep, I agree, Helen. I'm gonna cut you short so we can start.
Okay. Thank you.
But thank you. We're in total agreement. Couldn't agree more. Let's see, Chandra Mosley, I think you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. My question is in regards to Wayfinder as well, in regards to the security that happens there on the campus. And I understand from talking to some people who have worked there that there's no real permanent staff So how are they being funded if they cannot even have permanent staff to have a program that will keep these people focused and not wander out in the community and cause havoc?
Well, I don't know that to be true, that there's no permanent staff. I'll have to check with Wayfinder. I don't know that to be true. I don't know if you're referring to some of the programmatic elements that they have, or if you're referring to security for permanent staff. But I don't know that to be true.
Yeah, and just to follow up on what Chandra was saying, it is something that merits, we're not going to figure that out or fix that in this forum, but somebody does need to look at the agreements that Wayfinder has with the county, how they've been staffing, how they've been funding that staffing, because Kwame, as you probably know, you've heard some of our criticism and concerns. It comes directly from people that currently work there or that have worked there that have raised serious concerns. So I think, that kind of dovetails into what Chandra was implying, that, the staff may or may not be properly funded, supervised, trained, supported, et cetera, and doing the type of work they're doing, with the type of money that the leadership is making there. Some of those resources have to filter down where they're really needed.
That's absolutely the case. I do know employees who have been rotated out. They're brought in on temporary basis or randomly, but they're not permanent employees, and that instability causes issues.
Go ahead, Kwame. You had a follow-up? Thanks, Chandra.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as far as the training goes, so they are mandated, and it's a part of their compliance with DCFS to have a kind of a floor of training, but they exceed that training. Every Wednesday, they have double staff essentially. And on those Wednesdays, they're able to provide a full day of training to staff members. So every other week, staff members are getting a full day of training that goes above and beyond what they're required to do for training. And so they are very mindful of training. And one thing that they also have said is that they also take staff feedback very seriously. They have increased security measures based off of staff feedback, such as allowing the youth to be able to move between the floors. They don't allow that anymore. It has to come from a staff member who has a badge access. They've increased the capacity as far as being able to the housing capacities, like the bathing, et cetera, based off of staff feedback. And so they are listening to staff. I will say this, we all work in workplaces where people have differences of opinion as to how things can be done. I'm a former educator. I was a middle school teacher. I worked with youth who had a series of trauma. I didn't get to choose the students that came to me being a public school teacher. I had to do the best I can and utilize the resources in an innovative way, get to know these students, build relationships with them. You cannot prevent everything that is going to happen. I do believe that Wayfinder has the tools available to them to be able to handle this new upcoming program. And they're continuing to work on it as well. They're continuing to make sure that they're listening to you all, they're listening to their staff, and any way they need to improve, talk with them. Don't just talk at them, talk with them. Try to build that collaboration. And I know that UHA back in the day used to have their meetings at Wayfinder. Maybe that's something we can start up again, where you all are going there and having those meetings. And what are some ways in which we can also provide a benefit to the youth who are in this program to say, hey, you are a part of our community as well. So how can we bring resources to Wayfinder?
Thanks, Kwame. Appreciate it. In the few minutes we have left, I'm going to go rapid fire. Jesse McClendon, you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Well, mine wasn't really a question, it's a comment.
Can you hold that for me and let me see if I got any questions while we have Kwame. We'll come back.
I can phrase it as a question. As you're working on this business of repaving are you considering the kind of notice or whatever the residents get beforehand? The last time our street was repaved, it was done extensively. And right after that, we wanted to put in solar and discovered we were going to have to pay $12,000 to trench through we would have to pay to trench and do everything. Had we known that the street was going to be totally resurfaced, we would have made plans around that.
So the question is, how much notice will we have on the street work?
And are they considering the kind of other things that people will be doing there?
Got it. Kwame?
Yeah, we are very focused on ensuring that the community is not only updated on these projects. And so I'm working with my colleague, transportation deputy, senior transportation deputy, to ensure that we're giving you all a briefing on when this is expected to happen. It's not going to happen overnight because, like I mentioned, resources are thin, but we're going to be giving you all a briefing on when this is supposed to be happening so that we can mitigate the issues. We're not going to allow DPW to spring any type of project on you all. That's not fair. You need to be able to prepare for this, and you need to be able to voice your concerns should you have any as well. I know that there was recently an issue in the area regarding hitting some of the water wells, and you best believe I had some choice words for DPW about the way in which they handled that, and didn't notify the community, didn't communicate with them on when it would be solved. And so this is something that our office is very, very, very specifically focused on, is making sure that anything that has an impact on your quality of life when it comes to public work, we are communicating that with you all.
Got it. Mr. McBroom, unmute yourself and ask your question fast.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. My question is relative to Housing Works. Do you have any eval comments relative to Housing Works, what they're doing, how they're doing?
I don't have that information with me at the time. I will get that to you.
Thank you.
Kwame, you have time for 2 more quick ones?
Yes, I can do that.
Dorothy, unmute yourself and give us a quick question.
I just appreciate you being here, Mr. Simmons, in the meeting. And I wonder if you're aware that there seems to be like a tone of, like, on the homeless, calling the police on homeless encampments. I don't think, I mean, I certainly don't agree with that approach. Calling the police for people walking around or using the area at Reuben Ingold Park to call the police on at a time when we're in a pandemic. I walk there almost every day. I'm alarmed at police being called in when there's, you know, they're just using the park.
You may want to ask him a question because his time.
Well, the question is he aware that we're not unanimous on what seems to be the trend here of and even talking about 20-year-olds being too old. I mean, I appreciate your comments on working with Wayfinder. They sent out a card inviting people to come in and talk to the staff, to take tours.
So
Dorothy,
I gotta respect Kwame's time. So your question is
okay.
He aware that there's some dissension in our neighborhood about how we go at this issue?
Not dissension, disagreement. I don't know when these things have been voted on, but I just
Kwame,
and I think
are you aware of that?
Assistant would be aware of that, but I just
got it. Thank you, Kwame. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I am aware, and I've talked to people on both sides. John, as you know, I gave you a call to figure out what was going on. So let me say this. From my point of view, I am very keenly aware that there are some people, especially in the climate that we are currently in the aftermath of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, I mean, I'm very aware that the presence of law enforcement in our community can be a traumatic experience for some people. Yep. So I will say I am aware of that. Let me say this about Reuben Ingold Park. The enforcement of the ordinances in that park must be left to Parks and Rec staff and or the Parks Sheriff's Department, Parks Bureau and the Sheriff's Department. I will never tell anyone that they cannot call law enforcement. That is not something that I should do, nor will I ever do. But there should never be an instance where anyone who is not Parks and Rec staff or the Sheriff's Department telling anyone at the park what they can and cannot do. That should be left to the Parks and Rec Department. If you have an issue, I know Mr. Murray makes himself available to everyone. You can let Mr. Murray know, hey, there are people who are using this park inappropriately. And I will also say this. I have expressed that to people who have called our office and said, why don't we just let the people be able to use the parks for their private enterprises as they see fit? That is not the law. The county ordinance says that private use of the park must be permitted and approved. And to my knowledge, most, if not none of the folks who are using the public park for private purposes have gotten a permit to do so, and they are not allowed to do so. This is
Exactly.
a small park. I love this park. I have been to this park even before I started working for Supervisor Mitchell 5 years ago. It's one of my favorite parks. The community is a beautiful community. There should not be excessive noise. There should not be people who are using the parks as their own private enterprise. And
Hear,
the
hear.
Parks Department will be working as hard as we can to enforce that. But no one should be, if you're not a parks employee, and if you're not in the sheriff's department, you should not be going up to other people and telling them how they can and cannot use the park. So I'm trying to do my best to bring down the temperature on both sides here. I do see both sides' points. And I get it's a very beautiful park, but we all need access to it, and we all need to make sure we're doing the right thing here.
Exactly. And we're in 100% agreement, Kwame. Thanks. One last one from Angela Sherrick Bright. Angela, can you unmute and go real fast since Kwame's gracious enough to hang out for a minute? Go ahead.
Yeah, yes, I can. Thanks again for coming to the meeting today. Just quickly, we met with your office and others, as John talked about, on the cell towers, and we have not received a response back from regional planning. They actually have 2 communications from us in writing, and at the meeting we were told that we would receive a written response. And so I'm just wondering if your office can ask regional planning where they are with that response. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. I can do that. And I will also stipulate it by saying this. Under the Trump administration, they took back a lot of power when it comes to telecommunications from the local government, and now it resides with the FCC and the federal government. And so that response just may be them double checking kind of what the new changes and updates have been. But I can definitely check with them on that response. I'll put that in my notes right now.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Angela. Brother Kwame, we appreciate you. And let me just say on behalf of the entire community, whatever we can do to be supportive of you, you got that. And we're, by the way, our next meeting is next month on September 18th. If you're available, we'll send you a link and invite you back, okay?
Absolutely. And I am district director. We will have a permanent field staffer assigned to you all. Her name is Sarah. She will be joining as well. I'm going to just kind of make sure that I am here because she's getting onboarded now, but she will be in attendance as well. And I will absolutely be there. Send me an invite.
Got it. We had a great, I'm sure you know, we had a great meeting with Temesgen, and we were sorry to see that he left he's no longer with the office.
Yes, Temesgen is no longer with us.
All right, Kwame, thanks again. Enjoy the Jazz Festival, and we'll be in touch. Tell the supervisor we said hi.
Will do. You all have a great afternoon.
All right, thanks a lot. All right, guys, and Dorothy, we will remind me if I forget, but we'll come back to your point because I think that's an important one to have more conversation about, but we always want to keep the agenda moving and, you know, respect our guest time. So that's why I had to cut things short. So moving right along, now we're halfway, we're only 6 minutes behind now. I'm gonna ask if Captain Johnson and Lieutenant Harrison, hopefully I'm getting his name right, are with us, and if they are, they can unmute and we'll have a little chat about Marina Sheriff Station and what's going on with them and what we all need to be thinking about and how we can make sure we continue to have a high quality of professional law enforcement service that does not raise the kind of concerns that Dorothy and others have, and we all, quite frankly. I don't see how you can be us or live in this community and not have that concern about the relationship between law enforcement and our community, which precisely is why, you know, we as an organization have been so appreciative of the Marina Sheriff Station and the way they conduct business, and the fact that we can have a very open and straightforward conversation whenever something does come up that needs attention or correcting. So Captain Johnson, Lieutenant Harrison, are you guys?
I'm here.
There you go. How you doing, Cap?
Good, good. Hey, thanks for having me at the meeting today. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. You want to take a couple minutes and just kind of give us an overview, maybe some recent stats and other issues, and then we can talk a little bit more.
Yes, sure. So first thing I want to do is, well, thanks everybody for letting me be here. I appreciate it. I look forward to meeting you guys in person one day. Hopefully that day's soon. But until then, we'll stay on the Zoom, keep everybody hopefully safe. So let me cover a couple of crime stats for the jurisdictions that we cover out of the Marina Sheriff Station. If you don't know, the Marina Sheriff Station covers Marina Del Rey, Ladera Heights, View Park, and Windsor Hills. So half of it's your community. Actually, I'm sure some people from Ladera Heights are on here as well, most likely. So anyway, so crime stats are violent crime for January 1st from July 31st is actually down 7%. Now, that's a really big deal for us. And the reason I say that is because with a lot of things that have been going on, things have been kind of crazy in some areas, not our area, but some areas, being down 7% is a hell of an accomplishment, we feel. And that's because we have a good relationship with the community. The community is always out there paying attention. And when they see something that doesn't look right or doesn't sound right, they actually have no problem with, you guys have no problem calling us. And we do appreciate that because that's how we help prevent crime. So when I say violent crimes down 7%, that goes to criminal homicide, rape, robbery, and aggravated assaults. Our robberies are up slightly. They're up 20%. That might sound like a lot, but that's a difference between 10 robberies last year and 12 robberies this year. So just the low numbers actually kind of make the stats sound horrible, but that's something we can always improve on. We're always out there trying to improve on that anyway. And we always appreciate the help when you guys call us, regardless of what it is, to try to solve those kind of issues. Our aggravated assaults, which is a good one, it's actually down 17%, which is a big deal. That's domestic violence and other kind of street violence when people are attacking other people with weapons and stuff like that. That's down 17%. So that's a big deal. That means, people are aware that we're out there. The people are aware the community is paying attention, and hopefully they continue to stay out of the community here and don't cause any problems here. If they want to come here and behave, that's great, but don't come to View Park and Windsor Hills and cause trouble, because you guys are paying attention and calling us, and that's much appreciated. That's the only way we're going to solve things. The other side is our property crimes. That consists of burglary, larceny, theft, grand theft, and arson. That's up 13%. I have some speculations of why that could be up, but it's a political reason, and it's probably better that I don't talk too much about the political reasons, but they are up. All those categories are up slightly. The biggest one is burglary. It's up 8.4%. But the positive with that, over a 5-year period, we're actually down 40%. So yeah, it's slightly up right now, but over a 5-year period, it's down 40%. There was a time, if you guys remember, that every single day there was some kind of burglary in the neighborhood. And if you guys don't remember, it was the case. There was burglaries constantly. A lot of that's been solved. A lot of it was different kind of burglary rings. We put a lot of work in with the Sheriff's Department and LAPD, and a lot of that stuff's been solved, which is a great thing. It's a whole lot less of it taking place these days, but it's still taking place, and the crime is up a little bit this particular year. The other thing I want to talk about is street racers. If you guys been in the community more than a week, you guys probably know the street racing is an issue. That's something that we do our best to put resources into. Unfortunately, I'm on a very tight budget at the Marina Sheriff Station. Every month we go over our budget just a little bit because I insist on hiring extra cars on Sunday nights when the biggest problems are, to hopefully deter these people from taking over intersections, causing safety issues for the residents, people that are driving through the intersections.
And Cap, sorry to interrupt, but that's one of the things, if we'd had more time, and we'll circle back with the supervisor on this, but with Kwame in particular, the issue of budgeting and funding. I mean, this is not for you. I'm just saying this for the community. The supervisors have discretionary funding, more so than most, if not any, locally elected officials. So the dollars that Captain Johnson needs to handle this business at the Marina is clearly, as far as I know, well within the purview of Supervisor Mitchell and her discretionary budget. So keep that in mind when you hear him talk about this issue. Go ahead, Cap.
Well, John, I appreciate that. It's something I don't like to talk about too much, but the bottom line is, if we have the money, we could solve a lot of the issues that you bring up regarding traffic, people speeding down the streets, and people taking over intersections, and other certain types of issues that you guys are facing as far as crime-wise. There's a lot of things we could do. Unfortunately, the budget's pretty tight these days. I try to stretch it as far as I can. If I have to go over and get yelled at a little bit, that's okay. But it's tight, but we still work. We still haven't given up. We never will give up. We'll always try to be there to address those kind of issues. The other thing I want to talk about is I've been at Marina Del Rey Station for 5 years. The past year, I've been the actual captain. I've been the acting captain and the captain for the past 3 years. They've never given me a second in command, which is something that's very, very much needed, so I can do some other things that I'm responsible for. And actually, I say that because I got some good news. Recently, actually, matter of fact, 2 or 3 weeks ago, they approved me to get a lieutenant who would be considered the operations lieutenant, who's actually the second in command of the station. And they actually gave me the opportunity to pick this person, which is very rare. And I have a friend of mine that worked at Marina Del Rey Station. I met him probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And he's a great man. He's a very strong religious man. He's a strong man of character. He's a good person, which is the most important for me. I know I can trust this person. The person comes from the community, and he's got a lot of experience, and he's overall a good person. A lot of you guys might know him already. But anyway, with that being said, I wanted to take a minute to introduce to you Lieutenant Keith Harrison. He's on the meeting here. I don't know if you can see him.
I saw him earlier and I was chatting with him. LT, the new LT. Welcome back, sir. Good to have you.
Like to say a few things, Keith.
Thank you. I'm ecstatic about being back. I couldn't be happier. Probably one of the highlights of my career. So for those of you who do not know me, I'll give you just a brief background. I actually started working at the station as a deputy, and I worked there from 2000 to 2012. So for 12 years, I worked as a patrol deputy, which included me working with the Explorer program, which included me working with the Clergy Council, the block clubs, the reserve programs. I was on the bike team. I did so many different things at the Marina over those 12 years, but most of them were geared toward working with the community. I left in 2012 and I got promoted to sergeant. Left for 2 years, but I came right back and I worked the Marina from 2014 to 2019 as a sergeant. So of course I worked patrol and scheduling and training. And in 2019, I got promoted to lieutenant and I left for 2 additional years. And I came back as of the last 3 weeks. I'm recently assigned as the operations lieutenant, as Captain Johnson said. And I just appreciate him giving me the opportunity to come back and work with the community that I'm a part of. Like I said, I've been here in this community, working and living probably over close to 17, 18 years. So I'm very familiar with the community, and there's a lot of familiar faces that I see on here, and I'm happy to see you. And I look forward to meeting those who I have never met. So thank you.
Absolutely. And Cap, I'm going to jump in and just say on behalf of the entire community, welcome back again, LT. And it does make a difference when it's one thing to talk about, knowing the community or whatever, but it's another thing entirely when you come home and, this is where you lay your head at night, so to speak. So that makes all the difference in the world. And we appreciate having, obviously, until such time as we come up with some different things on a sociological level, we're going to need law enforcement for the foreseeable future. So as long as we have law enforcement, we want that to be professional and folks that we have a relationship with, and most importantly, folks that actually care about us and the community. And I think that, that's all we can do. And that addresses much of the concern and issues that we all know have existed historically. So I've said enough on that, but just wanted to let you know that we personally are happy to have you back. Cap?
Yeah, so when they told me that, okay, who do you want for your operations lieutenant? To me, it was an easy choice. I mean, I have a lot of friends around the department. I have a lot of lieutenant friends that actually would probably be a good operations lieutenant somewhere else or a good second in command. But because I know certain things about Keith, and because him and I can sit down and have pretty honest conversations about a lot of things, he was an easy choice for me. So I'm very, very glad he's back. These past 3 weeks, it's kind of weird how much easier he's made my life already. I leave work with a smile. I sleep better at night. It's good. It's good. It's good to have Keith around. Unfortunately for the community, the one downside is, so he's not going to be a community relations guy. He's not going to be at all the meetings. His job is second in command of the station. He's going to run the day-to-day operations, making sure the people are there, making sure the schedules are set, making sure the equipment's there, making sure the job's getting done as far as the station-wise. I'll still be the face of the station. I know it's better to see his pretty face, but I'll still be the face of the station. I'll still be at the meetings. I'll still be communicating with the community on a regular basis. But just know when I have questions or I need some input, Keith is the first guy I go do consult. So,
and we still have Sergeant Collins too to come to regular meetings and stuff, right?
You do. Sergeant Collins will be, and some good news for him. He's on vacation right now. His daughter's going to Columbia College or University, wherever it is, which is a big deal.
It is a
whole lot of money, but he's making it work because he really cares.
You better give him some more overtime, man.
I try to force him to work it now because he needs it, but so that's some really good news on his part. Just another young kid getting a hell of an education. So it's really a good thing. He'll be back in another, I think, week.
That's great. And I see Mr. Tellis has his hand raised. I want at some point ask you guys your thoughts about, I know at some point we had the, I don't know what it's called, Citizens Patrol or some element where, you know, regular citizens could kind of help support, you know, you guys. And if we see something over and above Neighborhood Watch, if we see something, we can kind of get the right resources on the case. But I'll come back to that. Mr. Tellis, you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to know who's the lieutenant over the detectives and burglary and robbery there at the station?
So that would be Lieutenant Mark Moffett. He actually, it's a collateral duty for him. So if you do have an issue, I mean, I know we have a chain of command, but you can always come to myself. You can come to Lieutenant Harrison. We'll make sure the whatever your question is or your problem is was addressed.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Thanks a lot.
Mr. Tellis, did you have something specific or you want to take that up with these gentlemen offline?
Yeah, it's a private matter. And so, yeah, I don't want too many people to know about it.
Sure, understood. Do you have Cap or Lieutenant Harrison? Do you guys want to give Mr. Tellis your contact info or post that in the chat form, or how do you want to do that?
Yes, I don't know how to post in the chat here, but here I'll just give you my number.
Okay.
It's area code 310 482 6090. That's the number to my office.
Okay.
If I don't answer, just please leave a message, and they'll take care of you. And I'll return your call as soon as I get into the office, and we can figure out what we can work on whatever you have in mind.
And that was 310-482-6090, right, Cap?
That's correct. That's my office number.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions for these two gentlemen? What specific things can we do? I mean, you know, we talk about Neighborhood Watch, and Dorothy makes an excellent point. And, you know, many of us have that concern, Cap, about, you know, man, is this something that and the LT as well, is this something that I should be calling the sheriff about? You know, looks like some young dudes, you know, hey, we all were young once, you know, maybe just hanging out. But then again, on the flip side, you know, okay, if we allow folks to sit around and, you know, smoke and this, that, and the other, then, you know, what's the natural progression from that? So what are your thoughts and recommendations to us as a community, you know, kind of weighing those challenging questions?
Yeah, so let me tell you this. If you ever feel like something may not be right, please call us. We should send a car to any time someone calls with a concern. Now, I know sometimes we don't get it right. I'm the first one to admit that, but we kind of pride ourselves in the fact that if there's a cat in the tree, we'll respond to the damn call. We have no problem with that. That's the way it should work. It should be good customer service. Now, the issue we have though is, you know, so I get a call from somebody over by Inglewood Park, and I get this call a lot, not me particular, but, you know, our desk. Inglewood Park, someone's parking in front of my house, they're smoking marijuana, they're drinking. And then we respond, and sure enough, that could be the case. We have no idea how much we get beat up from other people in the area saying, you're harassing these people, you're stopping them for no reason, this and that, the other thing. We get it all the time. It happens almost every time we go somebody for some kind of call like that. But we'll still go, we'll still handle our business, we'll still do our job. But just know that's the kind of stuff that we are facing when we do make those kind of contacts. Someone sitting in front of your house that doesn't look like they belong in the neighborhood for whatever the reason, we go and stop them, and we have no problem doing that and talking to them. But we do take a beating oftentimes about harassing people for no reason. Well, when someone calls, that's a good enough reason for me.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I'm glad you shared that. You know, on a personal level, I'm one of those guys, I don't have a problem going out and talking with anybody about anything. That's just, you know, that's just how I roll. Everybody, of course, is not comfortable like that. And quite frankly, in some situations, that's probably not advisable. So maybe I'm a little crazy, but in any event, you know, I wonder if we really got a little bit better with the Neighborhood Watch and, you know, with people feeling comfortable about engaging with, you know, folks that, okay, I don't recognize, okay, that's so-and-so's kid, but I don't know who that person is. Maybe, you know, there would be less of a need to reach out to law enforcement, and people could feel a little more comfortable at least taking some action on their own. I don't know. And this maybe ties back into the whole idea about, Tony, what was that patrol? It's not the Citizens Patrol, but it was some term that we
Volunteers on patrol.
There you go.
Yeah, he said that was it.
Got it.
That was a nice program.
So I know they used to have that. I think it kind of faded away. We kind of lost a number of volunteers. Then last year, we actually shut everything down with our volunteers because usually the volunteers are a little bit older. We didn't want them out in the community with the pandemic, making contact with people or talking to people because of the obvious reasons. But that is something I'm in 100% in favor of because I think getting the community involved, especially something like that, I mean, the community benefits obviously, but the sheriff's department benefits greatly as well. Having community members work side by side with us, or actually just driving around through some of the parks and not necessarily contacting people, but maybe contacting the cars in the field and saying, hey, look, this is the issue we see. Maybe you can go take a look at it. Because we don't like our volunteers contacting people when there's a potential crime in progress or something along those lines, because obviously, I mean, it's common sense, the dangers involved. But volunteers on patrol, great tool. And I'm 100% in getting back with that. You know, we've changed community relations deputies, our sergeants on 3 different occasions over the past couple of years, which is kind of hard on our program, but we can get back to that. That's not a problem at all.
Got it. Thanks. Any other questions or comments for our fine gentleman?
We had a hand raised from a gentleman by the name of Only iPad. And I just remind everyone, if you can rename yourself, so it'll be easier to call on you.
Okay. Mr. iPad. Do we still have that? I don't see that person on the.
He's trying to read.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can. Who is this?
Yeah, this is Al Tate there. Sorry about
Mr.
that.
Tate, how you doing, sir? All right, go ahead and ask
great.
go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks a lot there, Captain Johnson, there for coming in today. Listen, I had an issue there. There's been a lot of thefts there, particularly car cover thefts there between Angeles Vista and Northridge. It's been an ongoing thing. I've had my car cover and my neighbor's car cover that had been stolen like 3 times. There's been some catalytic converters stolen there and then some other break-ins there. I've called to see if they could maybe beef up the patrol between the AM hours. This is usually happening between 1, 3, or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know if haven't been seeing any new patrols at that time of morning. I understand the funding and everything is kind of a lot to do with it, but what else do I need to? What else can I do to try to?
Okay.
Resolve?
Yeah, sure. So let me be clear about the funding part. Let me be clear. They have not cut any of the patrols in your community. So I still have the same amount of cars as I had last year and the year before. Matter of fact, maybe 2 years ago now, we've added a car to your community as well. So I want to, they did not cut our funding. They're just not giving us anything additional to help increase the number of units we have in the field or to increase special operations like the street racing operations we would like to put together. As far as your car cover and the catalytic converters, car covers is a kind of new thing. I haven't heard too much about that, but the catalytic converter, that is I think it's a nationwide thing, honestly. They're still on these things like there's no tomorrow because there's some precious metals in there, and they take them to some of these bootleg recycle centers, and they get a little bit of money for them, and you know they don't. The recycle centers don't say much about it, obviously. So that is an issue. We're well aware of that, and that's something that plagues your community as well as every surrounding community as well. About 2 months ago, we arrested some fine gentlemen, I think 3 males and a female, that were actually stealing cars and catalytic converters from your community. And then we tied them to, I think, a couple dozen LAPD cases as well. So hopefully the district attorney files some serious charges against these people to get them off the streets for a while and maybe teach them a lesson. But that is a big issue. As far as your particular street, let me see what we can do, especially on the early morning shift. That's what we call early morning shift in those hours, and make sure they're well aware of what's going on, especially the car covers. Like I said, it's new, but they need to get out there more. And they need to pay better attention. Hopefully they are, and hopefully we can help resolve that issue.
And that 2 a.m., I think, Mr. Tate, I didn't hear everything you said, but that 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., you know, I call it the witching hour, but that's really, you know, the times that I've encountered folks doing dirt and other dumb stuff, it generally tends to be, you know, okay, between 1:30 and 4 or 4:30 when everybody else is asleep and people are creeping around trying to see what they can pick up. So whatever we can do to, you know, get more eyeballs active during that time window would be good.
Yeah, that goes with the crime stats I was sharing. The larceny thefts are up 14%, which is an issue. And let me share this. This is not real popular with some people, but those kind of crimes are misdemeanor crimes, depending on the value of the whatever we're stealing. Well, those crimes are not getting filed with the DA's office anymore. So the things that plague your community, it's a lot of misdemeanor crimes in your community, which, that means you have a pretty good community. The DA's office is not filing the majority of those, especially when it comes to any kind of narcotics arrests. So
Right.
there's no consequence for some of those things that are happening. We can arrest them and write them a citation, they'll be released. And then it's up to the DA's office to file the case, but that's not really happening anymore.
Yep, that's obviously a problem. That's the same thing we were talking about with respect to Wayfinder. So anyway, thanks, Mr. Tate, for your question. Any other questions for our two law enforcement experts before we let them go? All right. Well, listen, gentlemen, Lieutenant Harrison, Captain Johnson, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Obviously, as you know, as always, if there's anything that we can do to be supportive or helpful of you guys, because we definitely appreciate, the way that you conduct business, you always have our full attention. And just for the benefit of my fellow neighbors that are listening and will watch this later, I have personally written a couple of situations up where I commended some officers that I thought, went above and beyond. I was aware of some things they responded to personally, and I took the time to write a note that went in their report and said, hey, you guys did a great job. So, I mean, we all know that when stuff goes bad, they get jacked up, and as they should. Anybody that has the public trust, whether you're elected or unelected, and certainly if you're in law enforcement, you must be accountable for your actions. But, it's also good to let them know that we appreciate them when they do something good. So.
Yeah, John, can I comment on that real quick?
Sure.
Two comments. Number one, John has actually more than one time, I don't know if you remember, but more than one time, either a letter, a phone call to the watch commander, or an email to me. This will go on their permanent record for the rest of their career. If that goes with a complaint. A complaint we take no problem. They're very easy to file. Anybody can file them. Even if you're way off base, we still take a complaint. That's just the way we do it. And that goes in their permanent. There's an investigation done, and regardless of the outcome, it still goes in their permanent record, and it follows them for the entire career. That goes along with the commendations as well. If you feel they did a good job, if deputies did a good job and you appreciate it and you want to say something, because sometimes people do, a letter, an email, a phone call to me or to Lieutenant Harrison, that goes in the permanent record as well. So it's always appreciated. And I make sure as soon as I get that stuff, I send the deputies the email saying, hey, just so you know, there's a commendation, by a certain citizen, and this is what they said. So they're aware of that stuff. The other thing is, body cameras have been a big issue for a long time throughout the country. Sheriff's Department finally got them. Marina Del Rey Station, every patrol deputy has a body camera now. So anytime you may have contact in an investigative way with a deputy, if he has a call for service, they have a body camera. It should be recording. So just know that. And it's actually a very good thing. And people think, well, police, would they really like that? Actually, it works well for us. I've noticed our complaints have gone down tremendously because of the body cameras. I attribute to the body camera anyway. And it actually has been very helpful. And we review those videos often whenever you put their hands on somebody, whenever there's a pursuit, whenever there's a complaint. We actually 3 levels of review at the station before they go anywhere. So just be aware of that.
That's good to know, Cap. I appreciate that. Just let me pick your brain one minute longer. Do you think that the reduction in complaints is because the deputies are now feeling, hey, I have to be on my P's and Q's, or do you think that the citizens are saying, okay, this is going to be recorded, so I don't need to go in and file my paperwork, or a little bit of both? What do you think?
I think it's, if I had to guess, I'd say it's 50-50. The reason is because I review some of these body cameras, and the deputies still actually say some dumb things sometimes, and we don't actually want to use foul language. That's how extreme it is. And that's kind of hard when you're wrestling with somebody not to use foul language. But we don't like that, and we actually have to do something about that when we catch that. So our deputies still kind of acting the same, but I think some of their citizen contacts, when they know that they're on video, and I don't mean the average person, I mean somebody that may be trying to fight them or maybe trying to antagonize them, things change as soon as they know they're on video. So I would guess, this is my guess, I'd say 50-50. And I'm 100% supportive of body cameras, and I actually think most of our people are as well.
Yep, agreed. And we know, obviously there's an election coming up for sheriff, I believe, in next year, 2022. So we'll all be paying close attention to that because that's a very important position from the standpoint of policy and law enforcement and how you guys do your job. So we'll probably, this is not for your benefit necessarily, but we'll probably get with Ladera and host a town hall and get the major candidates to come to that. There's some serious issues. You guys know, the allegations about gangs and cliques within the sheriff's department. I mean, that's, that can't be tolerated and that has to be dealt with because it's obviously a real issue. The guy at Loyola Marymount has done some real scholarly work on that. And I was happy to put that out to the community because people need to know the details on all that. So again, there's a difference between professional law enforcement and a lot of this other stuff. And we're definitely advocates for and supporters of professional law enforcement. So we appreciate you guys.
Yep. And just to be clear on that as well, I could guarantee you there's no deputy gang or clique or whatever they're called these days at Marina Station.
I know.
It's a 100% completely different environment from some other stations you go to. It's different, but
we know, and quite frankly, that's probably why the relationship with you guys is what it is.
Very, very well could be.
Yep. Thanks a lot, fellas. We appreciate it.
Call anytime if you guys need anything. You guys have my number.
All right, will do. Take care. Thank you. Good to see you, LT.
All right, sir. You too.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks. So listen, we're going to move as quickly as we can. It's 3:20. While those two gentlemen were talking a minute ago, I just realized something that I should have done at the beginning of the meeting, and that is ask for a motion to open nominations. We have our upcoming annual meeting in October, at which we'll be having elections for the UHA board. And 3 of your 8 current board members are termed out. Myself, Tony McDonald-Tabor, and Aaron Raymond. We're long in the tooth. We've been on this board a long time, so we have to step aside and let some other folks come on. So 5 of our colleagues are still eligible to continue serving. But we have a total of 9 board seats. So that means that there'll be a total of 4 board positions available. And I would encourage those of you that, are not only passionate about the community, but that have been dues paying members of UHA, have been involved in our work, maybe you chaired or served on a committee, et cetera. Consider either nominating yourself or getting somebody to nominate you because we need you. This is important work. It's exciting work. And as you guys all know, it's important to have a viable, strong organization and advocate for the community. So with all that, can I get a motion by a dues paying member, could be another board member, whatever, to open nominations officially for the October election?
So moved.
Is it moved by Mr. Hudson? Is there a second? Nobody seconding, Mr.
Second.
Hudson? All right.
Second.
All right, Helen said it and Linda raised her hand. So, okay, so we got it. We'll do this by acclaim. All in favor, just do so by raising your hand or, clapping your hands or doing something.
Okay.
And any thank you for that. And any opposed, which I'm quite sure there isn't, but if there is anybody, send me some hate mail or something. So we'll officially open those nominations for those elections, and we'll put out a detailed description of what you need to do. But essentially, if you send us an email, again, you can nominate yourself. Let me read through the requirements real fast. To be nominated for UHA Board of Directors, you have to be 21 years old, a property owner or resident of the community, dues paying member in good standing, been on a committee for at least 1 year. That particular requirement can actually be waived at the discretion of the board. But that's pretty much it. So, again, keep that in mind. And we know there are some very powerful, capable community advocates out there. So, we really want to encourage you guys to participate, because it's been an honor and a pleasure for me to work with these folks and to represent you guys since June of 2016 when we restarted this thing. And I don't plan to go away, but I will be stepping aside in terms of being on the board. So you guys will get to hear some other long-winded person on these meetings, and hopefully by then we'll be able to meet back in person. So anyway, more on that. And also while I'm thinking about it, unless there's any opposition, I think what we'll do is we'll schedule our next meeting for Saturday, September 16th at 2 p.m. We already set Saturday, October 16th. Let me just double check this real fast. So yeah, Saturday, October 16th at 2 is our annual meeting date. So if we have our next meeting, I'm sorry, on Saturday, September 18th at 2 p.m., that should give us enough time to get nominations in, get folks to present whatever statements. I'm guessing that it's not going to be safe with the Delta variant for us to get together physically. So more than likely we'll have to do some balloting by mail. So we'll have to get together, 600 or 700 ballots, however many active members we have, and figure out how to get those to people in time. So that once we have our slate of nominated candidates, folks can vote and return that in time for the October 16th meeting. Any questions? I see some folks that still have their hands up. Hopefully those.
Can I clarify, John? I might not, I may be the only one, but between now and the September 18th, people who want to nominate, who are interested, they at this point should be sending in an email. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you for the clarification. Yes.
And can we get the email address again?
Absolutely. In fact, thank you, Michael. Let's put it in the chat. It is info, I-N-F-O, at UHA, WH for Windsor Hills, VP for viewpark.org. So info at UHA-WHVP.org to nominate yourself or another neighbor. All right. Any other questions? I see Jesse's got a hand up and Kathy's got a hand up if this is about this topic. Otherwise, lower your hands and we'll keep rolling. Jesse, Kathy, okay. Jesse's clapping. Thank you, Jesse. Let's see, let's quickly talk a little bit more about land use, because that is technically the next thing on our agenda. I guess I could wait if anybody wants to nominate somebody right now. We can open, since the floor is open, we can take nominations now, or you can put it in the chat. Anybody have a burning desire to nominate somebody?
John.
Yes, Helen.
John, I just want to make a recommendation that when you nominate someone, try to make sure you've spoken to them about the position, because you'll just be nominating someone who's just going to say, I decline.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Well, very, very good. And, make sure that those folks are familiar with the organization and, the rules of the road, so to speak. Well, while we're talking about this, I'd like to nominate our friend and neighbor, Dr. Lindsay Wells, for the board, who has previously served on the board and has a wonderful bouncing baby that's kept her busy. But I think Dr. Wells may be willing to accept that nomination. Is that right, Dr.
Have you spoken to Dr. Wells about that?
What do you think about that, Dr. Wells? All right. See, Helen, there you go.
Oh, right on.
There you go. Thanks, Lindsay. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Yep. So that's our first official candidate.
Can I ask another question, John? People who are already on the board who wish to re-up, should we be nominated at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we can nominate all 5 of y'all by acclaim if you want to do that. I don't think anybody.
May I make that as a motion then?
Yeah, let me read over the names so everybody knows. So right now, your current board that was elected and affirmed last October 24th during our last general meeting is Joanne Fountain, Daryl Grayson, John Heath, Michael Hudson, Aaron Raymond, Richard Rice, Dr. Helen Sellers, and Tony McDonald Tabor. And of those 8, let's see, let me get this right. Myself, John Heath, Aaron Raymond, and Tony McDonald Tabor are all termed out, because not only have we all served 3 consecutive terms on the board, but we were all 3 part of the original incorporators of the organization. So we've all been hanging around here since June of 2016. So it's time for us to step aside and let some other folks step up. Michael was also part of that original group of incorporators, but he was smart. He stepped off the board for a year or so and came back.
Yes, he did.
So he's got some more time, but that's where we are. So essentially, Michael is going to move that Joanne Fountain, Daryl Grayson, Michael Hudson, Richard Rice, and Helen Sellers all be nominated. Is that your motion, Michael?
Yes, so moved, sir.
Who's the second?
Can we second?
Sure, you can second yourself,
Okay.
Helen. No problem.
Okay, I second. Mel.
All right, all right. Oh, we got Celestine. That's my heavyweight political neighbor to second that. So that's some extra chutzpah on that. Thanks, Celestine. All right. Well, hey, we're going to assume that that's done by acclaim. If anybody has any opposition, you can raise your hand, speak now, or forever hold your peace. So that's great. So we got Dr. Wells plus 5 existing board members, and we'll keep that nomination open until at least our next meeting on September 18th. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Coming after you, Alicia.
All right. You guys are all right. The pressure campaign starts, huh? All right. So real fast, let me talk a little bit more about the land use stuff in state legislation. I'm gonna compress a lot of stuff into this, and I encourage you guys, if you have a question or comment, just raise your hand and we'll try to get everybody in as quickly as we can. We talked about SB 9 and SB 10 both passing the Assembly this past week. They're in the Senate for concurrence. Let's see here real fast if I can do this. I don't need to share my sound, but I do need to share my screen. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with this, but you can go to, see if I can move my stuff to the side. So this is California Ledge Info at legislature.ca.gov. If you just type in SB 9 or SB 10, you'll get to this screen, but it's a really useful screen. You know, whoever thought that we'd all become experts on state legislation, right? But you can actually look and see, you know, for each committee and a floor vote. So this is the floor vote that occurred for SB 9 this past week. Who voted yes for it? And I see my buddy Reggie Jones Sawyer. I'm gonna have to talk to Brother Reggie about that. He voted for it. Mike Gibson voted for it. Shirley Weber's daughter, who replaced her in the Assembly from San Diego, she voted for it. You know, there was some heavy duty arm twisting going on from what I understand. Now, I don't know if our neighbor, the good Senator Kamlager is on, but she would probably have some commentary on this. And then you can see here, Mr. Bryan, our Assembly member, NVR means no vote recorded. So, you know, this is kind of a good way to, you can go back and look and see what happened in the Senate here. So this was the first committee, the Housing Committee, and then it got to appropriations, and our senator actually voted for it in committee. But then when it got to the floor of the Senate, she abstained, no vote recorded. So this, and same thing for SB 10, if you want to get a sense of who voted for it. Again, Brian, no vote recorded this past week, but you can look and see who all voted for it and kind of count everything up that way. So more than you ever wanted to know about how state laws get made. But let me say this, as far as the next steps, these bills are probably not going to go to the governor's desk because, as we all know, the governor is in the middle of a very tight recall race. If the question of shall Gavin Newsom be recalled gets 50% plus 1 vote, then he's recalled. So it's quite possible that, and you know, I plan to vote no on the recall. I haven't submitted my ballot yet, but I don't think it's a good idea to recall this guy. I certainly have some criticisms of him and his policies, but that's a different story. But here we have a hot situation where he could stand up and say, hey, on SB 9 and SB 10, I'm actually going to veto those bills because that's bad policy. It's going to hurt people of color, working class communities. This is a bill that helps corporate Wall Street, speculative investors, blah, 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 all the things that we've already been saying about the bills. So we're asking people to call Governor Newsom on 916-445-2841. And I'll put that in the chat, 916-445-2841. It's a quick call. You get taken to the switchboard. You can let them know exactly how you feel about these horrific bills and the impact they're going to have on our community. I've told quite a few people, as far as I'm concerned, I'm like a single issue voter on this. Either you're with us or you're against us. There's really no good public policy reason that I can think of to support this policy of deregulating housing and housing everywhere, here a house, there a house, everywhere a house. I mean, at some point, you've got to have some sense made and some sort of intention about the way you do your land use planning. Otherwise, you know, nobody wants to look like New York or San Francisco that lives in LA that I'm aware of. Maybe the people downtown do, but we're not interested in that over here in South LA, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. But, you know, some density here and there, absolutely. With all this commercial property that's now vacant and retail businesses that's gone underwater, there's absolutely a lot of space where the infrastructure and the capacity for more housing and more people is already there. Absolutely. But, you know, anyway, I could rant about this for a long time. Let me put that number in the chat. Mr. Tellis, you have your hand up. You want to unmute and ask your question or make a quick comment?
Yeah, real quick. I was listening to the radio and I can't remember what show, but the guy was talking about even if you're voting no, to choose a candidate. And so when I read the instructions, it basically doesn't preclude you from picking a candidate, even though you pick no. And so I had already sent my ballot in, but I don't know if anybody else has been talking about this. And we're going back and forth on some of these Facebook pages on whether people should do that or not. But so I just wanted to bring that up.
Excellent point. And thank you, Ed, for bringing that up. You know, I'm certainly not a political expert. I see Celestine wants to weigh in on that. I would just say this, unless you want Larry Elder as your first Black governor of California, you better find whoever the next most likely person is to get a lot of votes and vote for that person. Otherwise, that's what we're going to end up with. Celestine, you have some thoughts?
Yes, I have. The recommendation is that you vote no and do not vote for any other candidate on the ballot.
And that's coming from that's the governor and his campaign, right?
Well, right, because number one, it only takes 13% of any one of those to take the seat. So who knows who that person would be. So we are suggesting, if you are going to vote no on the recall, do not vote for any of those candidates that are running.
Thank you for that. And Celestine, while we have you, since you are the dean of politics here in the neighborhood, or one of them, what are your thoughts on a personal level about, you know, what the governor could or should be doing with respect to these two horrific bills?
Well, I think I'm like you. I don't believe he will pass them because the pressure has been on him that they should be vetoed.
Yeah, it would be nice if he would actually either do that. I know he can't do it because they haven't left the Senate yet. They're in the Senate right now for concurrence with the amendments that were made in the Assembly. But, you know, I just checked this with Senator Kamlager earlier today. He actually doesn't have to sign them for them to become law. Right. So if my political acumen is worth anything, he ain't gonna do anything. He's gonna tell them, don't send that stuff to me. Whatever you do, don't let it come out of the House. It has to come out of the Senate before September 10th or the bills are dead. Right. So they're gonna bring it out of the Senate and, you know, try to do some old sleight of hand, you know, thief in the middle of the night type stuff and just let it sit somewhere in a corner and think that we're not gonna be paying attention, which again is why we're encouraging everybody to get on the phone and let that dude know, and everybody around him, that he damn well better be paying attention to this, because we sure are, and we're not taking it lightly.
Correct. And this is a good time to get his attention. So
absolutely,
he will be paying attention if you are writing or saying anything, calling, whatever you do at this time. So
absolutely. Thank you, Celestine. We appreciate you. As you all know, View Park is, at least most of View Park, not all of View Park, is a designated historic district. We're on the National Registry of Historic Places based on our unique position and association with African American history. But with respect to land use issues, you know, I'm really not sure what protection that gives us. We had to file a lawsuit about the view. It's looking very much like, and I'm going to ask our neighbor Angela Sherrick Bright to unmute herself and speak for a quick minute about the situation with the 5G towers, because she just attended a hearing this past week on that topic. You know, you would think that if you're saying, hey, this is a historic district, we have certain standards here that have to be observed, that would give you some measure of protection. But it seems to me like we may need to be doing something else, and maybe that something else is looking at a community standards district, which again would introduce kind of like at a local level some very specific requirements, both on the residential side and the commercial side, in terms of height, character of the neighborhood. You know, I always said when we started this, Tony knows this, and Michael too, because we all had those conversations. I didn't want to be in the business of trying to regulate what people can and can't do with their property in terms of oh, you got to paint your house this color. You know, who wants to be in that business? However, given this stuff with regard to density and everything that we've gone through with the view, we need to do something. So Angela, you probably have some comments about your experience with the 5G towers. You want to share that with folks in a couple of minutes?
So the conditional use permit for the cell tower on Valley Ridge was actually approved on Tuesday. So there were a couple of neighbors at the meeting, myself and Reginald Smith. Both of us spoke against it, but the hearing officer approved it. So that will be going forward. The 3 other cell towers on South Ridge, Escalon, and Fairway have not been approved. And as John said, we had a meeting with the supervisor's office as well as regional planning and county council. And there are 2 letters that that I generated that we are waiting for a response to. At this point, what we're asking in those letters is for them to do both an environmental review and a review based on the historic, us being on the National Register of Historic Places. One of the things that regional planning is saying is that because we are on the National Register and not on the county list, the Landmarks Commission does not have to look at this, which means that they will have to, that the applicant who is Newcastle should have applied for a permit from the state.
Crown Castle. But
I'm sorry, Crown Castle. And so that's what Kwame was saying, that he thinks that that regional planning is probably trying to determine whether or not all the I's and T's were crossed, because we brought this to their attention. And I'm pretty sure that they did not get that approval before we asked the question. So at this point, we're waiting to hear back from the county as to whether or not they got the state approval to actually go forward with these permits. So at this point, the permits haven't been issued for those 3, but the permit has been issued for Valley Ridge. And one of the things that regional planning said is that they don't even have to take the cell tower on Valley Ridge to the state, because that particular cell tower is outside of the historic district.
right, and that's what I was sorry to cut you off, Angela, but that you're literally talking about on one side of North Ridge is View Park, and on one side of Valley Ridge, right there where North Ridge and Valley Ridge comes together, you guys know where the mailbox is. Well, View Park stops or starts right across that street. So this cell tower site is on the Windsor Hill side. So, I mean, again, you know, we weren't involved in the decisions that went into creating the historic district. It would be interesting to hear from some of the folks who were. But, you know, if it was up to me, the whole community should have been included, and that would have solved a lot of problems. But, you know, that's Monday morning quarterbacking.
So at any rate, we're waiting for a response from regional planning at this point, and the appeal for the Valley Ridge cell tower is this week. It'll be the 31st, and I don't know that. And I'll be talking to our attorney on Monday regarding that issue specifically, if we want to try to appeal it based on environmental or the National Register, it being close. So I'll get her feedback and see what she says. So I'm not sure on that one, but I know for sure on the other 3, because I've researched those, that we're going to fight them tooth and nail on those. So that's my report.
Thanks, Angela. Catherine Collins, you have your hand up. You want to unmute yourself?
Yes. Ms. Sherry Bright says they've been approved. Approved for what? To move forward with the tower?
Yeah, there was a conditional use permit application for the one on the other side on the Windsor Hill side of North Ridge and Valley Ridge, and that got approved, right, Angela?
Yes.
Approved to move forward?
Yes, that's correct. Approved to move forward with continuing to construct the cell tower. So apparently right now that you see the pole there, but they haven't completed the whole, installing the whole apparatus.
Yes, I'm on South Ridge, so I'm familiar with the one down here at South Ridge and North Ridge. And one of my neighbors and I would like to get involved with you. So we'll be contacting you.
Sure.
About that, and probably whatever work has to be done from here forward. And find out exactly, how we can stop this approval.
Yeah, unfortunately, Catherine, that, just so everybody knows, there's actually an existing cell site already on that side of Northridge now on one of the wooden power poles. So Angela, I guess they're going to erect another pole in a separate site, right? Around on the other side of Valley Ridge. Is that the idea?
Well, actually, that conditional use permit was for that pole that was existing. Apparently, they never completed the work.
Okay.
And so the original conditional use permit expired. And so they had to go back in and have it reapproved, and that's what they did.
Got it. Okay.
That's the one on Valley Ridge you're speaking of?
Yes.
Valley Ridge and Northridge, right.
Now, there's a big difference between the other three. They don't need a conditional use permit. The law changed in 2018 requiring only a ministerial permit, which is only a land use permit, which means there will not be a public hearing. And that's one of the things that we're fighting right now, that we should be able to be involved in the process. The county, is pushing back a bit on that. Well, actually not a bit, they're pushing back quite a bit. And so that's the discussion that we'll have on Monday with Beverly, the attorney, just to see what she believes that our recourse is. At this point, we've asked a lot of questions to the county, whether or not they've taken this to the state to get approval for the National Register, and whether or not they've done CEQA or environmental approvals also.
Who has taken it to the state to get approval from the state for the registry, the historical registry?
What is supposed to happen is Crown Castle, as the applicant, should have taken that, but the county is supposed to make sure that all of those sign-offs are completed before they approve the permit.
I see. Yes, I remember too, someone, I think a lawyer too from the regional planning spoke about the laws or whatever, ordinances or whatever being changed so that they didn't need certain ordinances or whatever to go forward for current.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember that. Yeah,
that was the FCC under Trump and deregulation. So
yeah.
Thanks, Catherine, and thanks, Angela. I see Charles McCall, you got your hand up. You want to weigh in on this point real fast?
Yeah, I do, real quickly. Is our objection against the towers themselves or against the technology? Because 5G is the wave of the future, and then there's going to be 6G after that. If you want to be, if you have fast communication, you're going to need to have those towers because it's short-range signal. So let's not think carefully and not lock ourselves and our children out of the future. That's where the future is going.
That's a great.
There is another technology, though, isn't it?
That's what I was going to say, Charles, and Catherine, thank you for that point. Yeah, I think it's important for us. And, to me, this kind of goes back to the process. And that's why what's happening with SB 9 and 10 is so egregious, because again, deregulation. So instead of having some real conversation and a chance for communities to get informed and educated and have a back and forth public hearing on this stuff, people are just doing it. So to respond to what Charles said, my understanding is that, yes, obviously we all want access to fast telecom. That's the way we, conduct our business and do our day to day. However, there are multiple ways to do it, right? You could have fiber underground. I'm not, even though I'm an electrical engineer, I haven't been paying attention to that stuff recently, but I know, as you know, Charles, being also an engineer, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So my concern is, are we dealing with some folks that have really looked at and analyzed, and I bet Angela probably has some thoughts on this too. Have we really analyzed and assessed all the different means of getting that technology out here, or are we just getting ready to throw up the microwave towers and start baking people if they come too close? Angela?
Well, I think one of the things that we would be asking them to take a look at would be location, right? So we know that there are other areas that are at the same altitude that we are, because one of the arguments is that it has to be high up, right? So what about looking at the oil fields, or even looking at Kenneth Hahn Park? There are transmission towers that are already there that are not going anywhere, because those towers are for police, fire, and water and power for emergency communications. So those towers aren't going anyplace. So why not look at places where there are already towers installed, as opposed to looking at a residential neighborhood. And, you know, the other thing is the health impact. So I totally agree that we don't want to be left out of the new technologies, but we have to look at the health impacts. And one of the things that the new law, you know, under Trump, what they're saying is you cannot look at health as a reason to not install these things. And that's concerning, right? Why wouldn't you want to make sure that there are no health repercussions to installing these things? So there are just questions, and that's why we want to have a public hearing. You know, we need to be able to have this discussion and have a back and forth and be clear on what this actually means. And that's one of the things that we don't have. We're not clear. And we want the telecommunication companies to tell us what this means and what studies they put in place to show us that there are no ill effects, because we're the ones who are going to be affected by this, our community.
Absolutely. Amen. So, you know, you guys, you know, as long as we've been talking about this, we all recognize how critical land use planning and policy and zoning is in terms of the impacts on a community. So we really have to be more focused and attentive to these details. And I'm very appreciative of Angela and everybody who's been involved. I know Catherine, Alicia, Tony, and a lot of these folks have been Joanne have been soldiering on these land use issues for a long time. So we've all kind of become mini land use experts, and we're going to have to continue to do that, as well as being political and economic advocates if we want to see things change. So real fast, it's now 3:50, and we were supposed to be adjourned 10 minutes ago. Let's talk real fast about the mall. We already circulated the email that we sent out yesterday, trying to correct the record with respect to UHA and what we've said and done. I wanted to remind everybody with respect to the mall and the view and all this other stuff, the city of Los Angeles in 2019, I believe, talked about authorizing a regional traffic study. If you guys recall, that was part of the deal with the mall being approved, was saying, hey, with the mall coming and all the development on Crenshaw, the view, et cetera, let's look at these overall cumulative traffic impacts in this area and what the cumulative effects would be. To my knowledge, I don't know what's going on with that. I assume it's been tabled because the mall project, you know, has gone through so many changes, but we need to be thinking about that. And if we had time, I would have mentioned this to Kwame, but we'll certainly follow up. You know, our boundary goes right across the street from IHOP and the mall. That's View Park. You know, we're right there at Stockard. So whatever happens at the mall is clearly going, whatever happens on Crenshaw, same thing. Once you come across that alley on Victoria, you're in View Park. So anything and everything that happens on Crenshaw is going to affect us. So we need to be encouraging Supervisor Mitchell to be speaking with the council members for the 8th and 10th districts about those regional traffic and parking. While we're looking at traffic, we might as well look at parking. You know, Leimert Park is on a bit of a resurgence. Glad to see you guys. Should definitely go out if you can do it safely and support the Leimert Park Jazz Festival that's going on today. You know, we all know what a cultural gem and heritage, important heritage, that particular neighborhood and all of this community, really, because it's all one big neighborhood, provides to the city and the state and the country. So, you know, again, we need to be involved in the planning and implementation of all this redevelopment and economic activity and cultural dynamism, for lack of a better word, if it's really going to be successful. So, you know, make sure you guys keep an eye on that. I don't know if anybody has any quick questions about the mall or anything related to that before we move on. You guys are all tired, huh? All right. Let's see, anything else? New business. I think we got the nominations piece going. We told you guys we had a couple of good meetings with our assembly member. We're going to work on getting nominations for these 4 board positions that are open. And our next general meeting is going to be Saturday, September 18th. So look forward to seeing you guys, if not before, then, you know, in about 3 weeks. Michael or Daryl or any other board members, any other comments or anything I'm forgetting?
Yeah, there was one, someone posted in the chat about the Yvonne Braithwaite Burke senior citizen Center is back open. That's on 62nd Street. That's right across the street from Ladera Park, if I'm correct.
Right.
If I'm wrong.
Yep.
They are reopened to serve the public, and they're open from 8:30 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday.
Outstanding. Thanks for that. I always feel like I'm forgetting something. We told you guys about the Community Development Fund. We'll have some more updates on that. We got to get the bylaws and the 501c3 stuff filed. Any other new business? Going once, going twice, okay. Oh, Dr. Helen Sellers, go ahead. You got to unmute yourself.
Got it. I just want to thank everybody for coming today. I just want to make one last comment. We as a neighborhood and a community and association should never have the attitude that we should not call the sheriff when we see something that is totally counterproductive to our community. That's why we develop relationships with the sheriff, and we want them working for us. So that sign in the park and anywhere else that say, if you see something, say something, we want everyone to take that opportunity, because this is all our community. And we want that response, and we believe that the sheriffs are working for us. So never be afraid to call the sheriff. Take the sign, see something, say something, please.
Yeah, thanks for that, Helen. I knew I was forgetting something. I now remember that Dorothy had brought that up earlier in the meeting, and you know, and I'm sure Dorothy wants to make a comment too. But I agree. I think you know, given that we've got the level of professionalism that we have from the guys and the ladies in the Marina, I don't personally have any hesitation about calling them for issues of concern. And I do think that at some point as a community, you have to make some decisions about standards and rules only mean something if they're enforced. Now, obviously, you know, Inglewood Park is a public park. Nobody here, nobody that I know of is ever going to try to stop anybody from the public from using a public facility. That's not at all what we're trying to do. But what we are trying to do is make sure that members of the public, I think one of the sheriffs or somebody said it, when you show up in the neighborhood, respect the neighborhood. That's all. Dorothy, did you want to make a comment?
I'm not sure what the point is, except that I'm not against, you know, I mean, I want to live in a safe neighborhood like everybody.
Right.
And I believe we do. And there are occasions where we need to call the police. What I object to is, I mean, again, taking Inglewood Park, and I see the ordinance posted now. It wasn't maybe 2 weeks ago, and I understand the issue, but at the same time, you know, you walk around there. There's kids, there's 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds plus. You know, it's not, and the people doing the classes there are. I mean, we're in a pandemic. There's more need for exercise, for places to be out. And I didn't see the problem. The park is wonderful. The mix of people. It is a community feeling. And my understanding is maybe some of the neighbors object to some things going on. I'm just saying there's ways that are more supportive in the community to deal with it. And I'm not wanting to tell on anybody, but I know one of my friends talked to one of the police officers that have been called out, and he was saying, I don't like being here either. You know, it's uncomfortable, but it's, you know, these are young men offering services, and maybe there could be something worked out where there's another place to do it that doesn't violate the ordinance.
Right.
But yeah. They on its surface, the behavior is not like raucous, criminal, destructive, and I just really object to how it was handled. I think one of the people said something somewhere about like it bothered my zen because there were a whole group of children running around making noise. And I thought, my goodness, you know, we arrived at that, you know. So anyway, I'm saying that, and then as to the encampments, there are times where I could see where police need to be there, but there's a whole, as you know, a whole discussion about a better way to deal it. We have a tremendous homeless situation, and it can't be resolved by us and them and they're bad and criminal and let's, you know, wait, where's our humanity?
Yeah, Dorothy, point well taken, and I definitely appreciate you, you know, weighing in and making those points. A couple of things that I would just note. One is, hey, we have been through and are still going through a major crisis as a planet, and that's called this global pandemic, better known as COVID-19. So I think we all have to be a little more, you know, maybe a little more than normal tolerant with each other. People have been on edge. I'm sure that has fed into a lot of the violent crime that we've seen spike recently, just people being pent up. And like you said, Dorothy, not being able to get outside and exercise. That being said, the issue, and I haven't been directly involved, I just know kind of secondhand, but the issue with Ingold happened because the activity that was going on in the park by certain people was like they were coming in and just bogarting, to use one of the old terms we used to use back in the day, to a point where the people that normally use the park couldn't do it safely, literally blocking the pathway. And then moreover, as Kwame said, you know, if you're going to do stuff for a fee, you need to have a permit. And there are some places, I think in Ladera Park and elsewhere, where, you know, that activity is perfectly fine, where there's more space. So I think that, you know, again, it just gets back to, you know, as you were saying, Dorothy, what kind of society do we want to have? And obviously none of us, hey, I'm not out here trying to be policing everybody and calling the sheriff every 5 minutes. But hey, there are some times when we do need to make that call. And as you said yourself, you know, you enjoy living in a safe, quiet community. We all do. Now, am I going to call the sheriff or get upset when some little kids are outside playing? Absolutely not. I happen to have a little kid that goes outside and plays, and I'm out there throwing the ball with him sometimes too. So, you know, again, it's just about finding a balance. And, you know, it's just like with the housing thing, and to segue over into what you said about homelessness, absolutely. And we as a community, we need to be very focused on what we can do to contribute to solutions there. We've got 3 motels, I think, within our little area here in Windsor Hills View Park. I'm betting that at least one of those could be somehow repositioned to serve as some kind of high quality transitional housing, which is damn sure a lot better than having somebody camping in the damn vacant lot right next to the gas station on La Brea and Slauson. So, you know, again, we're going to have to start thinking about things a little differently, and as a community challenging ourselves to, you know, to step forward and do some things maybe we wouldn't have been talking about or doing 10 years ago. But hey, this is a situation that requires all hands on deck, and we all may have to accept a little bit of the challenge to fix the problem. In fact, there's no may, we are going to have to do that. Otherwise, it ain't going to get fixed. So, you know, all these communities that have kind of been hands off and trying to push stuff out. And, you know, we as people of color oftentimes get into this thing where we like to come up with artificial divisions, and we got to stop that, because we're all in this together. And really, you know, there is no such thing as race. There's the human race. So that's a whole nother concept. You guys are getting me into preacher mode now. You don't want to do this at 4 o'clock. You want to do this an hour earlier. But, you know, suffice to say that there's a lot of things that we need to start thinking about and approaching differently for everybody's benefit, because none of us are getting ready to move to Mars anytime soon. So we've got to figure out how to fix our environment. We've got to figure out how to do something better than continuing to burn dinosaur bones to get our energy and our transportation. That's not going to work. That's not a sustainable solution. So anyway, you guys know I can get rolling and keep it rolling for a long time. So I'm going to officially close this meeting. And for those of you that want to hang on for a minute, let me make sure that I did the screen share right, because we want to be able to hear the sound. All right, good. So I'm going to leave you with a little Curtis Mayfield. You guys take good care. And if you have something else you want to talk about, I'll be around when this song finishes. But otherwise, enjoy your weekend. And thank you guys all for your support. It means a lot. Thank you.
clean, and I don't care. Right on for the darkness. Right on for the darkness. You pity fools, you pity fools. You better have some sympathy. Yeah, 'cause it's the educated people running the lives of our society. Making up the rules, holding back the schools. A lot of greed, a lot of temptation, proving one thing, we're a hell of a nation. Right on for the darkness. Right on, right on. Right on, right on. Right on, right on. Right on. Right on for the darkness. Right on for the darkness. I am blind and I can't see how to understand. What do we mean for justice? Is there really levels to the man? Oh man, you must regain all your children's trust. Right on for the darkness. Right on for the darkness. Right on for the darkness.
I hope you guys all like Curtis Mayfield.
You got Stare in your collection?
I told you I got it all, man.
That's my favorite. You want to hear a quick Curtis Mayfield story? So my brother and Andrew, our cousin, was at Bishop College in Dallas, Texas. And they called up, Sonny called up Andrew, Sonny, That's his name. We all of our relatives in Texas had a nickname. So Sonny called up Curtis Mayfield and asked how much it would cost for him to perform at Bishop College. And he said, "Are you a UNCF school?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "And a lot of, folks are coming out and serving your community." He said, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, let me figure it out." And then about a second later, he said, "I'm not charging a thing."
Yeah, that's
he performed at Bishop College and didn't charge a dime.
Yep. And that was that in the 60s or the 70s, Michael?
That would have been the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And that song, and he's so strong that Bob Marley played tribute to him, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to remember the song. Was that in One Love?
Right.
Bob Marley uses his lyrics in One Love.
Curtis's son Todd was at Morehouse with us, and he wrote a book about his dad a couple years ago.
Yeah,
that dude was special.
I like to. What's the name of the book?
I'll look it up and I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to see that because Curtis is. Oh man, I don't know. And he had kind of two lives because he's with the Miracles, right?
Impressions.
Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions.
Yeah.
I think it's something else. And that was great music. And then when he went on his own, he had a whole different flavor to it. And that's great music too.
Oh yeah, well see now folks, we're in this is the UHA After Dark mode where we start talking about music and culture. So
you put on the music, nobody wants to hang up after hearing that.
If anybody has other things they want to chat about, the floor is open. In fact, let me go ahead